Good evening, everyone. This is Two-Way Tonight. I'm Mark Halperin, 6 o'clock Eastern Time, 3 o'clock in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Santa Barbara, Big Sur, San Diego, Long Beach. It's 3 o'clock in a lot of places. Thank you for joining. We have two great guests. We have some really big stories to get to, and we'll do that. And then, of course, we'll be delighted to take your questions. If you're here on the Two-Way platform and you'd like to be in the conversation, please raise your hand. If you're watching on X or YouTube or Snapchat or Friendster or MySpace, don't raise your hand. Don't put smack in the chat. Extend the presumption of grace to all and believe like your Tinkerbell in peace, love, and understanding. Or maybe the darling kids is really what I mean. Grateful to have you here. I'm going to just breeze through the top stories quickly, just like the headlines, like I'm what's her name? What's the name of that lady who hosted Headline News in the morning for so long? What's her name?
Robin Mead.
Robin Mead. Like I'm Robin Mead. Thank you. I'm just going to run through the headlines, then bring in our guests. We'll play some sound for you from the day, and then get your questions. And again, very grateful to you for being part of the Two-Way community. Still waiting to find out if the president of the United States and the head of Russia, thuggish dictator, are going to be meeting somewhere in the world. No announcement today of a meeting, of a date for a meeting or time for a meeting. But the president of the United States clarified that, contrary to what some had said, that Putin does not need to agree to meet with Zelensky in order for Trump to agree to meet with Putin. I could simplify it. Just imagine it's Archie and Jughead and Betty. Same kind of triangle situation. In any event, we'll talk more about that. The president today criticized once again Chairman Powell, and he nominated the gentleman who's the head of the Council of Economic Advisors, whose last name I've heard pronounced 4 different ways in the last hour, Stephen Miran, to take the Fed vacancy. We'll talk a little bit about that. Some more going on with redistricting. We'll talk about that there. Lots going on with tariffs. And then Bill Hemmer, who I'm proud to say is a friend of mine and an incredible anchor and reporter, was, I think, the first non-Israeli reporter allowed into Gaza by the Israelis, and he reported from there this week. And then today, he sat down with an interview with Prime Minister Netanyahu that made a ton of news, and we'll play you some of that. Those are the main things that are going on. And as always, we welcome your participation. So again, please, if you want in on the conversation, you'll raise your hand. Our guests tonight are second timers. And when they first appeared on the show, they appeared together. I don't know if we're bringing them back because the electric chemistry that existed between them or the intellectual jousting. I don't know what it was, but whatever it was, they've not only agreed to come back, but they've agreed to come back together. And we couldn't be more excited to have them back here, Steve Olikara and Elizabeth Pipko. Thank you both for coming back. Grateful to you. Elizabeth, believe it or not, and I know you're going to find this hard to believe, not everybody watches the show every night. We have a lot of repeat business, but just in case there happen to be people here who didn't see you the first time, tell folks what your connection is to America, American politics, American life, and why it is you're here.
I mean, first of all, thanhanks for having me back. Super disappointed in anybody who doesn't watch the show every night.
It seems a little crazy, right?
It's really silly, actually. I can't even believe that. But if anyone missed the first show that I was lucky to be on, I did work for President Trump on his first campaign in 2016, and I've kind of been involved in Republican politics and Trump world ever since. I was one of the younger staffers on his campaign in 16. I ran a super PAC in 20, and I was the national spokesperson for the Republican Party for the 24 campaign and election cycle. I'm the daughter of 2 immigrants from the former Soviet Union, which is one of the main reasons I'm obsessed with America. And I think that kind of sums it up pretty well. Hopefully we'll get into a lot more.
Okay, tonight. And tell folks what it is you do now. Like, are you curating any content, for instance, which most Americans seem to feel they need to do?
I'm one of the few Americans who doesn't really think people care about her content, and I'm proud of that. I do some form of TV or media probably every day, if not multiple times a day, but I'm not bombarding people yet with a podcast or any personal content.
Okay, and what social media platforms do you dabble in?
I dabble in X, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook.
Excellent. Okay, that's a good list.
Yeah.
Stephen, welcome back. Again, tell folks what you do for a living, how you found yourself here tonight, and again, as with Elizabeth, please accept my thanks for coming back.
Yes, thanks for having me. Well, I think I found myself here because I've been searching for independent-minded political talk platforms, and I think Two-Way is one of those. So thank you, Mark, for making this platform a reality. And a little bit about myself. I grew up in Wisconsin. I'm the son of Indian immigrants, and I've been a leader in the political reform movement for a number of years. Founded the national organization Future Caucus, which is the largest organization of young elected officials in the United States. Ran for U.S. Senate as a populist progressive in my home state of Wisconsin, and now I'm focused on culture change, bridging divides in America through storytelling and entertainment. That's an organization I run called Bridge Entertainment Labs, and I'm also a senior fellow at the Schwarzenegger Institute at USC, and get to show up on shows like this to share my views on what's happening in the world.
Right now, I have in my head an image of a badger dressed in a Trojan outfit. Combining your two states. Let's quickly dip into Fox News, where Bret Baier is interviewing the Secretary of the Treasury. Let's see what's going on with that.
Logic, because on one side they were saying, okay, we need to wait risk management. We need to see if we are going to see inflation from the tariffs. And again, it would not have been inflation. A one-time price adjustment is just like, does your driver's license cost more this year? Then on the other side, they lowered their economic projections for the year. So traditionally, when economic projections go down, interest rates go down. So now the market is pricing in a substantial probability of rate cuts over the coming months. And I would expect that the Fed will be following the market.
As some of these tariffs go into effect, there are some people worried that other countries are going to get together to try to reduce the impact of what the U.S. is trying to do. For example, Reuters has this report that India and Brazil getting together, the two leaders speaking on the phone, saying there's going to be a state visit to India, and it occurred on this day that the conversation among BRICS group of countries tackling U.S. President Donald Trump's levies, the group of major emerging economies, also including China, Russia, and South Africa. In other words, the BRIC countries possibly trying to do something to counter what the U.S. is doing. Is there a worry at all about that?
Well, Brett, I think it's mostly performative. They can call each other, they can meet, but everyone wants access to the U.S. market. And what we've seen thus far was, other than a brief retaliation by China, there's been absolutely no retaliation. We have 18 important trading partners, and we have substantial deals with about 2/3 of them. And with India, President Trump has added a third facet to tariffs. Alexander Hamilton, who was the original tariff man, used tariffs for two reasons. One, to fund the government. Two, to protect U.S. industry. And now President Trump is using tariffs as an instrument of foreign policy. And he is putting secondary tariffs on India for buying Russian oil.
We'll keep watching this.
Right. And
just in the short time we stayed with it, lots of issues got raised. The tariffs, the Fed, and dealings with Russia. So we'll talk about all those. Elizabeth, I'd love to just get your general sense. Are you comfortable with the current state of the tariffs? Do you find it to be a good bet that this will improve America's economic future, or is it, you think, the uncertainty and the negative effects of tariffs outweigh any of the positive possibilities?
No, I'm more than comfortable. I really didn't get into politics until 2015. I was very young and did not care. Kind of envy those that are still that young and don't care and don't know what's going on. But one of the first interviews I saw with President Trump wasn't him in 2015. It was him, I think, back in the 80s, talking about tariffs, talking about the United States being treated unfairly, and kind of laying out the position that he has held for decades now. So I became a fan of his for those same views that he's held for many, many years. I really appreciated Bessent making the point there. I think it was right when we were exiting out, but these are not just being used like they've been used in the past, but they're being used actually as an instrument of foreign policy as well. It's the most Donald Trump thing you can do. And I think most people that are predicting gloom and doom are doing so because they don't like President Trump. Many people have been wrong with what they've predicted over the last few months. I mean, economic models have been wrong, GDP estimates have been wrong, the list goes on and on and on. And I'm someone that's very, very confident, very bullish, and very excited for this new strategy that everyone seems to be against, but that a lot of everyday Americans truly believe is going to work for them in the long run.
Steve, I know you're not fully in Wisconsin anymore, but my sense of Wisconsin is a great example of a state where some people are very excited about this new possibilities and some are scared to death. How do you feel about the tariff policy right now? Are you more wait and see or optimistic, or does it worry you?
I'm not reflexively against the tariffs. I think you've seen populists on both the left and the right support a policy of tariffs. I think the issue that Trump has had is it's often ham-handed, and as opposed to being strategic and targeted. The United States for too many years has had an imbalanced trade. And so we need to correct that. So I'm not reflexively against what Trump is doing. And you're right. In Wisconsin, when you talk to dairy farmers, for example, we talk to farmers of different kinds. Some people accept that this is important for the United States, but in some cases, it's really, really hard on them, including for manufacturers. So I have acknowledged on this show before that I think one of the areas where Democrats often underestimate Trump is his work internationally and his economic populism through tariffs. So we'll see where this goes. I will, however, note that in the jobs numbers that were revised to be less good than they originally were projected to be, I do think is in part because of the tariffs.
Really? Tell me what you think the connection is.
Well, I think the two main drivers that have caused the slight depression in jobs growth is AI and the tariffs. So just the people needing the cost of things going up has depressed the economy a bit.
Okay. Let's talk about the Fed. Today, the president announced number 5, Sam, please. Stephen Miran, I think that's how you pronounce his name, but I could be wrong. He's been the head of the Council of Economic Advisors. It's a little complicated, but there's an open seat on the Fed because a Biden appointee stepped down earlier. Term goes through January. There was some notion that the president might pick for this seat someone who would stay on and be the eventual designated replacement for the current chair. That's not the case. He chose to go a different direction. Temporarily filling the seat. Of course, now someone will have to be the head of the Council of Economic Advisors. Here's the AP tweet on this, number 6. And the president, as always, not particularly excited about the current chair. So, Elizabeth, do you know this Stephen Miran? Do you know anything about him?
I don't. I read about him for the first time today. Yeah. Obviously, someone President Trump trusts to be there a lot more than Powell. I mean, we know where he stands on the Fed. He has not made his opinion on anything really much of a secret, so I don't think too many people are surprised.
Yeah. Stephen, just in general, what are your feelings about the Fed? Do you think that, like, there are people in the Ron Paul school that thinks the Fed is like a secret fortress of doom? In general, are you a supporter of the role the Fed plays in our economy?
I support it, but I do associate with those on both the left and the right that say the Fed should be audited so that there's some accountability on the Fed. But obviously, it has an important role in stabilizing our markets.
Yeah, they have an incredible amount of power for a bunch of folks who not only they're not elected, but they have their own budget. Like the Fed makes its money not from Congress. Now that gives them independence from Congress, but man, I see that school of thought that says this seems like an unaccountable branch. All right. Let's see. Let's go to Russia. Putin and Zelensky, as I said, the president said today, clarified what needs to happen for a Trump-Putin meeting. This is number 3.
Putin have to meet with Zelensky in order and before you and Putin have to meet? Or you hope?
No.
Are you so you're willing to? That's actually important because President Putin said this morning he was pretty dismissive of this idea of meeting with President Zelensky. President Putin was.
I don't know. I didn't hear him.
For you to meet with him, he doesn't have to agree to meet with Zelensky. Is that what you're saying?
No, he doesn't. No.
So when do you think that meeting?
They would like to meet with me, and I'll do whatever I can to stop the killing. So last month, they lost 14,000 people killed last month. Every week is 4,000 or 5,000 people. So I don't like long waits. I think it's a shame. And they're mostly soldiers. They're Ukrainian and Russian soldiers, and some people from the cities where, missiles are lobbed in and you'll lose 35, 40 people a night, which is terrible. But no, mostly it's soldiers, and you're talking about, on average, 20,000 a month. 20,000 people are dying a month. Generally young people, soldiers.
So I want to get to your sort of thoughts and expectations about a possible meeting, but first I want to talk about the question of whether there'll be a meeting. I have grown more skeptical as the week has gone on after this was first raised, and we can talk about why, but I want to hear your views. But first I want to Polymarket this. Our partners at Polymarket have a market up right now about this question. Will Putin meet with Trump before October? So that's a much longer time frame than the Russians say is going to occur. So here is the Polymarket market. Investors now think there's a 57% chance that they'll meet before October. Sam, this is number 2, please. And that's down. It's gone up a lot during the course of the week, but as you can see there, it's gone down here at the last couple of days. Since yesterday, it was at 80%, and now it's down to 57%. So they still think more likely than not in the Polymarket, amongst Polymarket bettors, but declining. So let's start with you, Stephen. Do you think they'll meet between now and October?
I do. Actually, the number in my head would have been 55%. So I'm almost right there with Polymarket. And I just think the one interesting part of this that needs to be taken into account, in addition to the concerns that there may not be a deal and the risks of that, is just the amount of attention, the kind of media story. This is something that I think Trump would really bask in, is a meeting on this scale.
Yeah, Elizabeth, just before we talk about what might happen at the meeting, are you bullish on it? Where are you in terms of Stephen says about the same as Polymarket, about 57%? What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, shockingly, I think I'm about there. I do think it's going to happen, but of course, I mean, 6 months of Donald Trump and months before that, years before that of Joe Biden, you tend to get skeptical about this war coming to an end or anything happening in terms of progress. But I still do believe there's going to be a meeting.
Okay. And again, for those of you who don't know, our partners at Polymarket, that's a platform where investors can place bets on all sorts of future events, economics, weather, awards, as well as, of course, political and legislative outcomes. And soon you'll be able to, in the United States, participate in Polymarket as a bettor. If you want to know more about that, go to polymarket.com/USA. All right, Elizabeth, if they say that the president called you and he said, I'm meeting with Putin next week in Kyoto. I don't know where it's going to be. I'm totally fascinated by that because I'm curious to see where Putin's willing to travel and not risk being arrested. And he'd say, Elizabeth, some people are saying to me this is risky. What would you say to the president? Do you think there's a lot of risk involved in a meeting?
I mean, at this point, I don't think there's much risk. I mean, the war continuing is really the biggest risk. It means lives ending, and it means Donald Trump not getting that victory of ending the war. So I don't think there's much risk at this point. And I also think President Trump is very, very confident in his own negotiating power and the connections that he thinks, or that I think we all kind of think that he has with a lot of these leaders from around the world. So I don't think there's much risk. I'd say in general, this would be like Stephen pointed to, I mean, this would be a media firestorm because the fact is what he met with Joe Biden in summer of 2021. This would be the first time in a long time he's meeting with the president of the United States. It would be very big considering a few weeks ago he said some harsh things and said that he doesn't think Putin is someone he can work with at all. And people were shocked that he got tough on Russia to begin with. So I don't know really if there's any risk at this point. I think the biggest risk is the war continuing, both in terms of logic because people are dying and in terms of what Donald Trump wants to accomplish. So no, I think the meeting in his eyes must happen.
Stephen, a lot of critics of the president and his foreign policy style and posture say he's too much of a believer in the personal relationships of heads of government and that he does a lot that gets built up Now, he met 3 times with Kim Jong-un when he was president the first term, and people say, well, nothing came of it. They still have nuclear weapons. That's true, but I don't know if anything bad happened. And I don't know, no other president choosing different style of diplomacy has made much progress with North Korea. Again, I'll ask you the same question. If the president said to you, Stephen, what should I be concerned about going into this? What would you say would be the right steps before the meeting and in the meeting?
Well, the two schools of thought is there's one, a lot of preparation and conditions leading up to the meeting. And the other school of thought is you just talk and you have the conversation. And I land somewhere in the middle. I agree with you, Mark, that there's a lot of upside in leaders having a conversation, building trust, even if there aren't a ton of deliverables that come out of it. And so I would advise him to do the meeting, and you try and get as much done, as much communicated ahead of time as you can. And the net result will be some kind of negotiated agreement that probably brings some region in southeastern Ukraine under Russia's control in exchange for the end of the war. So that would be my advice to him.
Okay, one more question on this. Then we've got one more topic we're going to do before we bring folks in. So again, if you want to get in the conversation, questions for Stephen and Elizabeth, please raise your hand. You guys may think this is frivolous, but I don't. But you can still say, Mark, you're being frivolous. Steve Witkoff, the president's friend and ambassador, special envoy, has met with Putin, I think, 3 times. And I have been struck, as have others, at the relative chumminess he seems to display with Putin. Shakes his hand warmly. I don't know if he smiles, but he doesn't look stern. And it's notable, I'll say at least. Stephen, if you were advising the president, if there's a meeting, of course, it's Donald Trump, there'll be a photo op. Would you advise the president to have a warm affect towards Putin, or businesslike, or stern? What would you advise, given that he's a murderous dictator who's killed so many people?
Yes, yeah, that will be the photo seen around the world. And I think the main advice I would give is to be as natural as possible. Whatever he feels in that moment, emotionally, in his posture, that's what he should do. And I generally, this is just a larger point, I think that consultants try and advise politicians to do things that are not natural to them, and that never ends well. So I'd just say be natural.
All right. So Elizabeth, Stephen thinks if they hug, if that's natural, that's good. Just kidding. What would you advise, Elizabeth? Should he not show warmth towards Putin? Do what's natural? Show warmth? What would be your advice to the president on that?
I mean, a few things. Number one, I don't think I've ever seen Donald Trump meet with a foreign leader and be too warm, right? He's always kind of exuding strength. I think that's just his personality that he kind of had as a businessman, even before he became a politician. Whether he likes a foreign leader or not, I'm not too worried about him going and hugging him. At the same time, I will say, because my parents, my grandparents, everybody in my family is Ukrainian or Russian, I feel like I've had this Putin conversation since 2015. I know he's a murderous dictator, and if I thought Donald Trump didn't understand that, I would never have worked for him or supported him. So I trust whatever he does in the moment. And again, you mentioned North Korea. People had a lot of criticisms for his actions with North Korea. I think what happened between him and Kim Jong-un ended up better for our world than anything that happened before that with anyone that had a far more foreign policy, political experience than Donald Trump. So I trust him in the moment with Putin or anybody else.
All right. I'm going to ask you both. We'll move on to Netanyahu. Just your best guess. And if you win, we'll bring you back. We'll give you some prize. Name the city where they'll meet. Elizabeth.
Ugh. I have no idea. It could be something shocking that I would never possibly guess.
Yeah.
Or Donald Trump could fly to Russia tomorrow. I really don't know.
Okay.
I mean, it was supposed to be Istanbul before. Maybe they're going to the same place.
Yeah. Stephen, you got a guess?
Dubai,
Istanbul, and Geneva are the 3 I hear the most, and they're all possible. I just, again, if I were Putin, I'd be worried somebody would just slap cuffs on him, and that'd be it. All right. As I said, my friend Bill Hemmer, Fox News, got an exclusive interview with Netanyahu. It's a great interview. I recommend you watch all of it. Here is Wall Street Journal headline number 8 about Netanyahu saying what's been discussed for several days now, that Israel plans to take over the entire Gaza Strip. Now, of course, that raises the question of what take it over means. So here is Netanyahu explaining that to Bill Hemmer, number 9, please.
Will Israel take control of all of Gaza?
We intend to, in order to assure our security, remove Hamas there, enable the population to be free of Gaza, and to pass it to civilian governance. That is not Hamas and not anyone advocating the destruction of Israel. That's what we want to do. We want to liberate ourselves and liberate the people of Gaza from the awful terror of Hamas. And you were in the Gaza Strip today. You met Palestinians who are fighting Hamas because finally they see that they have a future. They can rid themselves of this awful tyranny that not only holds our hostages, but holds 2 million Palestinians in Gaza hostage. That's got to end.
Are you saying today that you will take control of the entire 26-mile Gaza Strip as it was 20 years ago to this month in 2005?
Well, we don't want to keep it. We want to have a security perimeter. We don't want to govern it. We don't want to be there as a governing body. We want to hand it over to Arab forces that will govern it properly without threatening us and giving Gazans a good life. That's not possible with Hamas. The only way that you're going to have a different future is to get rid of this neo-Nazi army. The Hamas are monsters. Look at what they're doing to our people. Look at what they're doing to the way they massacred, raped, beheaded our people, our men and women, burned our babies. And they are really cruel to their own people, because when we try to take them away from the combat zones, they shoot them. They want people.
We can drop from here.
Casualties.
Stephen, how are you feeling about the prospect, not from a domestic political point of view, we'll talk about that, but from a foreign policy point of view for Israel, for the United States? How are you feeling about the prospect of Israel taking this step?
Not good, not good. There are a few things I think going on here. One is Netanyahu, as he's been trying to do for the past number of years, is trying to stay in power. The longer this war goes on, the longer he stays in power. I've talked to some of my advisors who are more on the ground with this issue, and there's some feeling that Netanyahu is trying to create some degree of additional pressure to allow them to then ultimately step away and get some kind of concessions. But I think when you look at what the hostages are saying, the hostage families, the Israeli hostage families, are very concerned about this. Some of the senior leaders in the Israeli military are concerned about this. So I think in general, this is definitely not a move I would support, and it's just very sad for that whole region.
Elizabeth, how do you feel about what the Prime Minister seems to be proposing?
Yeah, I mean, look, I agree. It's incredibly sad for the entire region. I don't really know if there's a right answer, right? You can criticize this move on his part, but I don't know what he should be doing instead. You mentioned the hostage families. Of course, I see the hostage families. I cry with them, and I wonder if a deal could be made, but I thought we got pretty close. It was, a week ago, and Hamas completely walked away from negotiations. I think stopped communicating at all with negotiators, kind of leaving folks no choice. I mean, for me, I worked for Donald Trump. That's the kind of leader that I want. That's who I look to when I think of what kind of leadership I want to see anywhere in the world. And when you think about that video that came out last week from Hamas, I mean, I think his name was Eviatar David, the hostage that was forced to dig his own grave on camera. I mean, if Donald Trump saw an American that had been held hostage for, I think it's 22 months now, in a video like that, then we can all imagine how he would respond to those that were holding him captive. So I don't really know what choice Netanyahu has at this point in time.
There seems to be here in the United States, in both the Republican and Democratic Party on the populist wings, something going on with support for Israel. And what we've seen for decades in the United States was even as partisanship rose and red-blue divide infected almost everything, a pretty strong bipartisan consensus to support Israel. That seems to be really dissipating on the left and on the right. Elizabeth, is this something that is a kind of a unstoppable force? Or it's not. It's going to be subject to what happens in the region.
I think at this point in time, it's an unstoppable force. Not really the attacks on Israel, but kind of the anti-Semitism that has flourished from that. I mean, the attacks that I've gotten from people in my own party, people I once considered friends, I never thought I would hear in my life in 2025, just as a Jewish person in America. I think we have a huge problem. I am not going to deny it is in both parties. It's on both sides of the aisle. The criticism for Israel, as much as I disagree with it, if you're not educated in the entirety of the history of the land, the history of this topic, of this conflict, and you're just seeing some of those images come out of Gaza, I understand it. You know, people aren't tuned in 24/7 to their phones. They don't have family in the Middle East, and they see these photos of children and they look at the numbers of those that have been killed. It is a horrible situation going on. So there's a part of me that wants and is trying to understand, but there is no denying the shift on both sides. I think the left has gone much further in recent years, but the right, it's been quicker. It's been like the last 6 or 7 months that I've seen it in the right, and it's been really hard to watch. Not really the criticism towards Israel. I'm not thinking so much as the other country that is Israel. I'm thinking about the anti-Semitism that I've seen flourish across the aisle.
Yeah, well said, Stephen. What's propelling this? Is it simply for people in America not liking the aggressiveness of Prime Minister Netanyahu, or the political cynicism? What's propelling this on the left and the right? I really don't understand it. And I'll say this is not only support for a Palestinian state or opposition to Israel, but as Elizabeth said, just open anti-Semitism and pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas sentiment in college campuses and elsewhere. What's driving this?
You know, I'm thinking of this movie that just came out called Eddington, that kind of spoofs both political sides and kind of caricature of the extremes that you're seeing. And so the answer I would give to this question really is, and this might be an unexpected answer, TikTok and social media. There are these echo chambers that make people think their positions are rational without realizing that it's actually anti-Semitic. And it just is, I think, yet another reason that we need to be having real conversations across our lines of differences so we can be checking our own biases and our own blind spots. Because I think even some of the people, including in Congress, who are saying things that are anti-Semitic, that's just the echo chamber that they're living in and maybe not realizing how it's coming across as deeply problematic.
When you guys get to be as old as me, you'll have a appreciation and a understanding for, I can't remember everything. Did we discuss anti-Semitism when you two were on last time?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I'll wade into area here carefully. I don't like when people throw around the word anti-Semitism. I see some anti-Semitism, of course, in the country, but what I mostly see is anti-Netanyahu or anti-Israel, and I see pro-Hamas, but I don't like the casual use of anti-Semitism. So, for instance, Mr. Mamdani, who's running for mayor of New York, I don't think he's anti-Semitic, and I have people tell me every day, of course he's anti-Semitic. I don't think he is, and I base that on what he said and who he associates with. I don't think someone who's anti-Semitic would be seeking support from so many prominent Jewish New Yorkers. That's what I think. So, Elizabeth, start with you. Do you agree with me that we should be really disciplined about separating anti-Israel, anti-Netanyahu, pro-Hamas from the use of the word anti-Semitism?
I mean, I think we should be more disciplined in general, right? I mean, when it comes to the way people speak about each other, the way people throw words around, anti-Semite, Nazi, fascist, I don't think majority of people know what they're saying when they throw the words around. So I kind of agree. At the same time, I have seen a rise in literal anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
I've had to explain to a lot of people that they are I'm more than okay with them criticizing the state of Israel or the government of Israel or Bibi Netanyahu. I don't care. He's a democratically elected leader of a different nation. Yeah. I care when you say that the Jews did 9/11 or that he did whatever he did in our country or whatever they think Bibi Netanyahu is, because they've called him horrible names that most people usually just call Jews. But I do think there is a difference. At the same time, I think when people get to that anti-Zionist argument that a lot of people have, I think it kind of begins to sound anti-Semitic because they're criticizing the only Jewish state for a lot of things, and no one seems to be criticizing, God knows how many atrocities are going on around the world elsewhere. So I think it's a mix of things. I will say what I've seen on social media, what I've seen, like I mentioned, from the right and the left, the attacks I've gotten have been blatantly anti-Semitic. Your family should have perished in the Holocaust. Blatantly anti-Semitic. At the same time, I am very supportive of critiques of our leaders in this country and any leaders around the world. That is not anti-Semitic. But when you walk around and burn the Israeli flag, or you walk around with the flag of Hamas, or you scream that all Jews should die, you're kind of an anti-Semite. So I'm sure people can be more disciplined in general, but I would say anti-Semitism is on the rise. I would argue Mamdani is partially anti-Semitic. He might not know how anti-Semitic he is, but I think he's an anti-Semite deep down. But I do think in general, they're criticizing Israel in a way they don't realize maybe is anti-Semitic.
Right.
So I'd
Okay.
say a lot of people don't realize what they're saying for sure.
Okay, I agreed with everything you said, but two things. And Stephen, I asked for your forbearance while I drill down here with Elizabeth on this, and I want you to get in. Again, I'm not minimizing anti-Semitism at all. In fact, what I'm worried about is when people throw the word around in cases it doesn't apply. I think that diminishes the spotlight on cases where it does. Did you really mean to say, I say with respect, that burning the Israeli flag is only done by someone who's anti-Semitic?
No, that's why I followed it up with, I've seen the same people burning American or Israeli flags.
Okay, so that's not necessary.
The flags of terrorist groups and screaming that Jews should be burned or die. No, if you burn the Israeli flag, you hate the state of Israel, and that's your own thing.
Good.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, just because I'm a New Yorker like you are, what makes you think Mandami deep down is anti-Semitic?
I think a lot of people, maybe because he's on the younger side or because he's fun and used to be a rapper, whatever else, think that he just kind of says things without thinking them through. I actually think he's very intelligent and very smart, and there's a reason he got as far as he did. I think he's a brilliant politician, and Cuomo and everyone in New York should, or anyone on the Democrat side, should learn from him. I think he's very aware of what he says and what he does, and very aware of the fact, for example, that hate crimes against Jews are at an all-time high in New York, and that people have come to him begging for answers, and he has no interest in talking about that because it's going to hurt his poll numbers. I think he knows for a fact that he does not have to answer to Jewish New Yorkers because people that support him are anti-Semitic, and he is perfectly fine falling into that category as well. Things like that.
Okay. Stephen, obviously some of the rise in anti-Semitism and anti-Israel behavior is American reaction to what's happening in the region. And a lot of Americans on the left and the right, they don't want a forever war. They don't like the way Israel's conducted themselves in Gaza. But clearly part of it has to do with what's happening here at home. I just think people aren't paying enough attention to overseas. So what's happened in America in the last 20 years that you would cite to say this has contributed to the rise of anti-Semitism?
Well, I think we've seen the rise of hate crimes of many kinds, according to data I've seen from the FBI, and that's included hate crimes against American Jews. And your question is a very deep one, Mark. I think there are probably many answers to it, but I just think that in general, we live in a time of political hate and political conflict and a politics of dehumanization. It's not just about disagreeing with someone on a policy issue like you disagree with Netanyahu on his policy of militarism. That often gets conflated or exacerbated into hating an entire people. And I just see that happen on issue after issue. And, it'd go to back to what I was describing earlier, the way that social media algorithms are completely intertwined with the rise of hate. I was referencing Eddington earlier. Another film I'd point to is The Social Dilemma, about how these social media companies and the algorithms in particular are causing many people to espouse extreme political views against other people.
Yeah, I mean, the polling is quite clear. Younger people are more likely to be hostile to Israel. And clearly younger people use a lot of social media, so that's part of it. I don't want to say younger people are more ignorant, but I would say that at least some younger people are getting, as you suggested quite smartly, a higher percentage of their news from social media that could be wrong. But I do worry so much because I'm sure it's true of you, because it's true of everybody I know. People who are younger than me and younger than you two, there's a shocking number of them who really say they like Hamas more than Israel. It's just kind of stunning, and it's the issue on which I feel the most existential about what have we done to raise our children? How have parents my age, younger than me, how have they raised kids in their teens and 20s and even 30s whose primary orientation is to say, I like Hamas more than Israel? How did that happen? I'm asking rhetorically because I know no one can really answer it, but I consider it really one of the most bewildering things of my career to try to figure that out. It's just stunning. And I'm talking about kids, I call them kids, teens, 20s, who otherwise are perfectly reasonable. They don't seem to have other views that are so out of bounds. And yet on this one issue, they just seem to have moved towards a level of deviation from what has been a bipartisan American consensus that, again, I find heartbreaking and stupefying.
Yeah, I just think it's part of this broader issue because I remember there was this poll that came out a number of years ago that polled Republicans, and it showed that Republicans viewed some foreign dictators, I think Putin might have been on the list, in
Yeah.
higher regard than Nancy Pelosi.
Right.
And so it's just a very tribal, it's like your side versus my side, and whatever my side is saying, we're going to hold in high regard. Obviously, we're that's insane, what that poll was showing.
Yeah. Elizabeth, comment on the end of young people's moral compass?
I mean, I do. I think you're right. I think it all goes back to social media. Do you remember, I think it was last year when like the Osama bin Laden letter went viral on TikTok and all these young people were posting it?
Yeah.
It had millions of reposts and people saying
Yeah.
that they understand where he was coming from. I mean, I think it's just an obsession with doing something different and being rebellious and knowing that people in that echo chamber are going to applaud you for it. And then the wrong person sees it and believes that because it has 1,000 likes on it, it must be okay to say. And then they say it and they repeat it. And it's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Stephen, yeah, go ahead.
I've just noticed that it's not just young people. I would say adults.
For sure.
Who have too much time on their hands, too many hours on YouTube. Very, very concerning to me in terms of the rabbit holes and echo chambers that they're getting into.
Yeah. All right, Stephen and Elizabeth, let me introduce you to Andre. He's a member of our community. He's going to start by telling us, lives in New York City, if I remember correctly, his deep connections to Ukraine. And then, Andre, whatever question you'd like to ask.
Thanks, Mark. It's been a crazy time, a crazy week this week because the American media, remember the war in Ukraine. So we got a couple of think pieces, a couple of specials on cable news, and it's all highlighting this potential summit. I really feel that the Russian narrative is trying to kind of push Trump in the direction of having the summit. They released this stuff overnight when the White House is asleep, saying that there's going to be a meeting, trying to egg him on into doing this. And I'm really surprised, actually, in a good way, that he's been so coy at the White House, saying he's not going to do a meeting. He can't confirm anything right now. Maybe there will be a meeting, maybe there won't. But he's really trying to do this position from strength thing. So I agree with you, Mark, that there's not going to be a meeting anytime soon. I think Elizabeth and Stephen are all on the same page. But my question is, given the fact that we're in this August recess, what are we going to see first? Are we going to see an increase of sanctions? Obviously, the deadline tomorrow is something that will probably go without anything happening. But are we going to see an increase of pressure from the White House first? Or are we going to see something being done in Congress? Because there's at least 3 bills being put up right now from the Senate side. We have the long-term sanctions thing from Lindsey Graham. We have the Republican version of an aid package that the Peace Act. They want to have Europe put money into an investment fund for buying weapons. And then there's also the Murkowski Shaheen bill for funding. So what's going to happen first? Is it Congress Act or is it going to be coming from the White House?
Before we engage on that, just remind people or tell people who haven't seen you on before, describe the nature of the work you do with Ukraine.
I don't have a choice. Meaning I have family, and I work in terms of coordinating the Ukrainian diaspora, specifically with the Confederation here in the United States, but also I represent Ukrainians in 80 countries at the UN as well. So,
okay, Stephen, where do you think American policy is headed? How much driven by the executive branch, and how much maybe by in Congress?
The executive branch, but that's not what I necessarily want to be seeing. I think that we need constitutionally for more foreign policy to be coming from the legislative branch, because the legislative branch has been so dysfunctional and gridlocked that they've really outsourced their foreign policy to a lot of their foreign policy authority to the executive branch. And so because Trump can move faster, you'll see more from him in the executive branch.
Elizabeth, the president turned your party from the James Baker, Mitch McConnell philosophy, and just an extraordinary turnaround regarding support for Ukraine. And of course, now the president in the last couple months has been sounding like Joe Biden to some extent, or John F. Kennedy, pay any price, bear any burden, and trying to do it in a Trumpian way, getting Europe more involved, which I think is absolutely the right thing to do. But how do you see the next few weeks going forward? Just talk specifically. Is the Republican Party now, because it's the Trump Party, going to do what Donald Trump says on Ukraine, or if he moves towards aggressive posture on Zelensky's side, will that cause a real division within your party, do you think?
No, I think the way you said it was perfect. The Republican Party is the Trump Party right now. Donald Trump is MAGA. MAGA is what was elected, and MAGA is decided by what he wakes up and decides to do every morning. I'm waiting for it tomorrow because, again, I think there were a few White House officials that came out and said there's a possibility of a meeting next week. I want to see what this week ends with. Obviously, Donald Trump has all the power right now. Most of our elected officials are on vacation anyway, and Donald Trump's the only one that seems to want to keep moving on this. I mean, I think he has surprised people with how tough he's been on Russia and how passionate he is about ending this war. Again, we're all skeptical. I'm hopeful there could be a meeting next week. We don't know. But I'm very hopeful in the direction that he's gone in. I said from day one he was not going to be the president people were painting him out to be. He was not this isolationist that was going to forget about the people of Ukraine and not step in. I've spent a lot of one-on-one time with him, and he talks more than anything about the countless tragedies going on around the world and how many lives have been lost in these wars that he wants to end. So I'm hopeful. I'm waiting to see what the week ends with, but I am hopeful the party continues in exactly Donald Trump's lead and that he gets an end to this war as soon as possible.
Andre, thank you. Grateful to you. Appreciate you being part of the community. Lucas, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Stephen and for Elizabeth.
Hey, how's it going there, Mark? Doing good. In Chicago, and I'm always surprised every single time you choose me, sir. Always honored.
Just drive safely. Drive safely. I don't know. I didn't pay the company insurance premium this week.
Oh,
so
no, I'm stuck in traffic. Don't worry.
Okay. All right. What's on your mind?
That being said, I wanted two things. I want to talk about the fact that Governor Pritzker here is hosting people. First off, he's hosted them in St. Charles, which is like an hour west of Chicago. It's not like the name of the hotel. But I find it very hypocritical and problematic that, Illinois, I think this is like the third or fourth time in which we have hosted Democrats that have fled, whether it be Texas, I think previously for abortion, and then also with Wisconsin, I think maybe like Oregon or something. And I don't know, it bothers me. And we're just so incredibly gerrymandered here. I've never felt like I've ever been representative of a district, in that kind of sense. And I don't know, Illinois is not a good kind of vibe for it, but I just want to state that.
Okay, hold on one second. Let's let Stephen, that's okay. Let's let Stephen and Elizabeth respond. And as you know, Illinois now is no longer known as the land of Lincoln. It's the land of fugitives. Stephen knows quite a bit about this redistricting. So Stephen,
from Wisconsin,
let us know what you know about the overall thing, but also comment on what Lucas raised, which I've also said, which is, and Karl Rove wrote about it today in the Wall Street Journal. The Democratic Party has literally no leg to stand on here, trying to be on the high ground and say, how dare they try to use redistricting for political advantage? Because ironically, Illinois itself would be an example of a Democratic state which can't do much more redistricting because they've already done so much.
No.
That's right. Yeah. Democrats do not have a high ground. I diverge a little bit from the mainstream Democratic position here. That you're hearing the Democrats say we need to fight fire with fire. I think you fight fire with water. And so what that means is what you're starting to see from figures like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who are saying we need to stop we need to terminate all of this gerrymandering, because the people who really lose out here are all of us, what I call the exhausted majority, who are not well represented. Right now, we live in a world where roughly 8% of the electorate elects 83% of the members of Congress. And that's because of these low turnout primaries in safe seats. And the gerrymandering creates these safe seats. Both Democrats and Republicans have done it. Two important things here. One is there has been, up until recently, a pretty successful movement to to curb gerrymandering through independent commissions, and that's gotten bipartisan support. I work directly with Republican leaders on a bipartisan basis in Ohio and other states to enact these reforms, because what I heard from my Republican friends was we shouldn't be winning elections by cheating our voters. That's something we can all agree on. And so what I would say here is you've got Team Blue, Team Red. We need a people's champion to emerge, and I would say watch what Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to do.
Yeah, Elizabeth, your thoughts on either Illinois or redistricting overall, or both?
I mean, I think I basically agree. The whole thing is political theater. I don't know how anyone has a leg to stand on here. One side complains when one does it, the other side complains when the other one does it. I think the fact that they fled to go stand behind Pritzker so he could start off his, 2028 presidential campaign was kind of pathetic. I think him calling these people, these lawmakers, courageous and righteous, I think is what he said, is embarrassing. I think, like you said, Stephen, fighting fire with fire doesn't do anything, because the only people that get burned are the people of your state. So it's a few people that got a little bit of media attention. Pritzker, who got to speak because, again, he wants to run for president and needs people to know that he exists. And again, nothing got done, and they knew that nothing was going to get done, and that's the saddest part.
Ellen, are you in the driver's seat as well?
I am.
But you're,
Can you hear me okay?
But yeah, we can. But you've pulled over, right?
Yeah, I'm parked.
Okay. I'm going to let Lucas come back with his second question, but you're setting a better example. Parked with the seatbelt. So, Ellen, go ahead.
I duly apologize. I'll be quick. No more so. It's not a question; it's a suggestion.
Yeah.
Have you considered bringing on a panel of like millennial or younger candidates who are running in any of these districts? Illinois is going to have 4 or 5 open U.S. rep seats. And
yes, sir.
There are a bunch of great younger candidates running new generations, and a few that I could suggest if you wanted.
Yep. No, we think about it nearly every day, and we will as we get closer to the election. But it's a great and important idea, and we hope to bring them on. Thank you, Lucas.
Awesome.
All right, Ellen, tell folks where you are and what's on your mind for Elizabeth and for Stephen.
Well, I would say that I feel like I'm in hell because it's 118 degrees outside, but I'm actually in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Yeah. As you know, for some people in the Southwest, Scottsdale is hell, even if it's not 118. No, it's a very nice place. Elizabeth, there's a kosher restaurant in Scottsdale that I went to last time I was there.
That's which one?
Phenomenal. I don't remember the name of it. I'll look it up. It's phenomenal. It's just really one of the best kosher meals I've ever had.
They have a Culver's in
yes,
in
they
Scottsdale, which is a big Wisconsin thing.
Yeah, custard.
Yes.
You can't have the custard with the chicken schnitzel at the kosher restaurant, just so you know, just in case that's not clear. I'm going to find it for you, Elizabeth. It's a great place.
Thank you.
Ellen, 118.
Yes. Yes.
What's on your frying mind?
Well, I just had a comment. You guys were talking about social media and Gaza and Israel and the younger generation seeming to be more supportive of Hamas. And I have 2 Gen Z daughters, 21 and 23. And I will say that their TikTok feed for quite some time, it was all videos coming from Gaza. And I don't know who was creating these videos, who is funding the channels, but it was significant. And so you could see how they would develop an understanding of the plight of the Palestinian people and then take it, unfortunately, the next step further. I just lost my earbud. Hang on.
Sorry, we can still hear you.
Okay. Sorry about that. But what was also interesting, and I'm on TikTok as well, is I would intentionally try to, I would click on things that would be pro-Israel to try and get my algorithm to show me more pro-Israel videos. And it just didn't happen. So I'm wondering, since TikTok is owned by China, did they have an influence on maybe suppressing pro-Israeli videos while elevating elevating videos from Gaza that are showing the plight? So I was just wondering what if anyone knew anything.
open it up to Stephen and Elizabeth. Either of you have something to say about that?
I would say, Ellen, it's a great question. We don't know the answer to that question, but that's actually the point, though. Like we have no visibility into the TikTok algorithm right now. And I think that's partly why there have been so many national security questions around TikTok. By the way, related question, there is a law on the books right now that's saying that TikTok is supposed to be sold to a US buyer. That hasn't happened yet. And so, yeah, I just think this is easily the most effective and powerful algorithm affecting American society right now.
Yes.
And we have absolutely no idea what's in it.
Yes. Completely shaping this generation's perspectives one way or the other.
And to your point, Ellen, like I basically at the point where, if you tell me a particular profile of someone, I'll tell you their views on Israel and Hamas, because I know what kind of videos they're likely tuning into on TikTok, and it's too predictable, and that's the problem.
Yes.
Elizabeth.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think there's a reason, like Stephen mentioned, that there were arguments made, and there were good arguments made about our national security being at risk when a bunch of Americans in general, but especially impressionable young folks, are on this app that was owned or is owned by China. I think in general, anyone that controls this app, whether China or someone in America who doesn't have the best intentions, that's a danger. And I appreciated you mentioned your children's ages. At least these are adults, right? I mean, when you're in your 20s, you're able to at least comprehend what you're seeing on there. I have nieces that are like 9 and 11 that are on these apps that, I mean, it just terrifies me, not even because of the war in Gaza, but everything in between that's available on these apps. So I think it's a greater conversation. But when it comes to the actual war, there's so many questions about why, there's obviously an imbalance when it comes to the app, why we're seeing what we're seeing, why there's an effort being made by people in the Middle East to put out this content, why it looks the way that it looks, if there's a mischievous, unbalanced effort there, if it's just happening the way that it's happening. There's so many questions, and that's why I have always been and will always be, I think, against social media, at least for minors, because it's so dangerous for so many reasons across the board, even having nothing to do with what's going on in Gaza.
Yeah, well said. Elizabeth,
that's true.
Elizabeth, thank you for that. Alan, thank you. Very grateful.
Thank you.
All right, a couple things before we go. Coming up 7 o'clock tonight, right here on the two-way family of networks, on the Moynihan Report, journalist Michael Tracy joins Michael Moynihan. So please watch that. And then tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time, Dan Sean and I will be on for Friday's final episode of the morning meeting, our winners, losers of the week and what to look for. This program will be on tomorrow night. Dan Turrentine will co-host with me. And my new episode of Next Up is now available on the podcast and soon on YouTube. And I interviewed Glenn Kessler of the Washington Post. He, for a long time, did their truth. What do they call it? Truth check? What do they call it? Truth.
Fact check.
Fact check. Thank you. Fact check. And he does the Pinocchios, right? And he left the Post 3 days ago. Hadn't been out of a newsroom for like 3 decades, and he said he's desperate to get back in a newsroom. He's like having withdrawal. He said during COVID, when the Post reopened the newsroom, he was first in line to get back in the newsroom. And he started a Substack, and he wrote in his Substack that he explained why he took the buyout and left the Post. And he said that the Washington Post can't change its business model because its readers are all left wing, and they only want left wing. They can't do anything to alienate the left wing. But he also told me, and it's a pretty respectful but heated conversation, that the Washington Post is not liberally biased, and that they're not anti-Donald Trump, that they're just fair, but that their readers are liberal because they live in the Washington, D.C. area, and because the editorial page and the columnists used to be liberal. It's a point of view I don't agree with at all. And we walked through it in a fair amount of detail, why he thinks the Washington Post is not liberally biased. And I said to him, as I say all the time, 50% of Americans think the Washington Post and NBC News and ABC News are liberally biased. So if you're a journalist, you should be intellectually curious. Why do half the country think our product stinks? Stephen, do you think the Washington Post is liberally biased?
Yes.
Yes. And I said to him, smart Democrats know you're liberally biased. And then when people complain, he said, well, when I do fact checks on Democrats, which they almost never do, and liberals complain, they're not complaining because they say you're conservative. They're complaining because they say you're the home team. How can you be fact checking the home team? In any event, the Obama folks will say, because they're like Stephen privately, Stephen will say it publicly, of course the Washington Post is liberally biased. But here's a smart, accomplished journalist who worked at the Washington Post for decades, and you can listen to my conversation with him, and he gives me all the reasons why I'm wrong. I had an incredible time, and although I talk often about liberal media bias, I've never had a conversation quite like this. So I recommend it to you if it's a topic that interests you. And I hope you two will come back. You're great. You're great thinkers and talkers and explainers. Did you get any feedback? Be honest. From the first time on, did anybody see you on? No? All right.
Yes, that was shockingly positive. That's the only reason I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of peace, love, and understanding. That's
exactly.
All right. Well, great to have you back, and we love having you on together. We're not committed to booking you only as a pair, but you're great as a pair, and really, really grateful to you for making more time. Grateful to everybody for watching. Have a great evening. Go watch Michael Moynihan, and I'll see you with Sean and Dan at 9 a.m.